Hey, it's 4Leaf with the tips video for Tarkov PvP. In this video, I'll go over the things that I think are most vital to know when PvPing in Tarkov. I have over 2,000 plus hours in the game, and in that time, I've learned a lot from my mistakes and wins with PvP. I'm going to share with you 10 of my biggest tips while PvPing. Hopefully you guys can take some of these tips with you and start winning more PvP fights with this advice. My first tip for you for Tarkov PvP will be always try to be pre-meted. Being pre-meted before a fight is vital because of the obvious that you don't want to be unmobile if your legs get blacked. Being unpre-meted can be the difference between life or death in Tarkov, and you don't want to be caught in a situation where the enemy's shooting you and you got black legs, and if you were meted, you could easily run and got behind cover, but now you have too much ground to cover to even get there, and your guy's limping around just to get to point A to point B. Always try to pre-med. I know sometimes I forget myself, but it is vital that you try to be pre-medded constantly because, of course, we also don't know when we're going to get hit from nowhere. It happens all the time in this game, as you guys surely know. So my second tip for Tarkov would be to try to push off grenade sounds or stims or healing. Stims or healing can be a little tricky. There's a little less time, I feel like, when you hear a stim or a heal go off, especially a lot of people in this game tend to bait with heals. But definitely grenades. Grenades is a pretty long animation, and you can get a pretty good time to close that gap, so to speak, when they pull out that grenade and take them out before they have anything to do about it. But do be careful. This is more of a 1v1 situation. You will get in those situations where he has a buddy and they might communicate to each other where like, oh, hey, I'm going to throw a nade, and he might push off it, tap him when he runs around the corner trying to push me. So definitely, play to what the situation is at hand. But more times than not, if you push off that grenade sound, you're going to get the kill and you're going to win the fight. So my third tip that I have is more geared towards solo players. But it's definitely something, if you want to be a solo player, every solo player really needs to learn and hone in on, is the idea of shooting and moving. Movement and surprise is going to be your absolute best friend when you're a solo player. If you stay static as a solo, obviously there's situations where like you can't move or you're just kind of pinned, but always try to shoot and move. It will win you more fights, absolutely. It's honestly probably your best friend as a solo player is that element of surprise, because when you think about it, you were going against a 3 or 4 man, their Discord or whatever they're talking is hectic as all hell. They're trying to just figure out where their buddies are for the most part, but if you keep moving around, they're gonna have a harder time dialing in, really putting the pressure on you and trying to take you out. But yeah, if you learn how to shoot and move as a solo, you will definitely see improvement in your PvPs against the more group-oriented teams. For my fourth tip, it will be always try to bring grenades into raid. I remember when I first started out playing this game, I kind of didn't see the point of grenades because I was like, oh, I never get kills with grenades anyway. But I really was kind of thinking about grenades in the wrong way. Yes, grenades can get you kills, and yes, they can be useful in that way. But in reality, I use them more as a tool to either push on someone or even retreat from a situation, because it gives you that breathing room to actually retreat or make movement onto that person. They're more of the tool of movement, less of a tool of killing, in my opinion. And as soon as I started bringing more grenades, I definitely saw a net positive of my PvP fights and able to have more ability to roam freely with that time the grenade gives me. So for the fifth tip, this is going to be a really obvious one, and I'm sure everyone has heard it a billion times, but it's really true, is that you need to try to fight with right-hand peeks. I cannot tell you the amount of times where I've actually given up a left-handed peek, run across, risk them actually shooting me, just so I could have that advantage of the right-hand peek on them. It is so vital when winning PvP, and when you really get in the mindset of thinking, I need to find a right-hand peek, I need to get to that corner to have that advantage, you will definitely see improvement in the wins of your PvP. It is so vital to learn that, and once you do, you will definitely see improvement of your PvP fights. So for this tip right here, I really wanted to get a visualization of what I'm going to be talking about, and that's pre-firing doorways when you know there's a guy in a specific doorway. So for instance, let's say there's a guy inside this door. Obviously it's a hypothetical man, but I want to push him and kill him. So what I mean by pre-firing this doorway is while I'm pushing, you need to be sitting down rounds like so he doesn't peek, and then when you turn that corner, you can finally just unload your mag on them and try to get that kill. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've seen people peek a doorway early while I'm pre-firing, and then me get that kill easily because of it. This is definitely a tip that I saw when I implemented it. Gave me a huge net positive in my wins against PvP. Another great tip to keep in mind is to not always prioritize healing when in a fight. Yes, when you get shot and you get banged up and you lose an arm or even a leg or even your stomach, healing is something that you do need to consider. And I do advise, if you don't already have this, putting up the little health icon in your top left, seeing where your guy is and seeing his health vitals and seeing which part is blacked or not blacked. That will definitely help you into like decision making, whether you need to really prioritize healing or you should probably hold off on healing and fight some more. This was really hard for me in the beginning, especially to kind of learn. Like as soon as anything bad happened, I was like, oh my God, I need to heal immediately. I need to fix this. But in reality, your PMC can fight a lot with, you know, how banged up he is. And truthfully, you know, the more experienced players are gonna fight pretty aggressively unless something like, you know, they're like a chicken nugget essentially, and they got arms, legs all gone, and they absolutely have to retreat or they die, or their thorax is bright red and they need to heal that. Those are things you do need to pay attention to. Like your thorax is like a big one. If you see that red, like it's probably wise to pull back and specifically heal that part, but maybe not your whole body. This is definitely something that helped me win more fights, was not thinking too much about my health vitals unless it really needed to be treated. That's just something to keep in mind when PvPing, is that you don't necessarily have to take care of that right away. It can wait. You can kill the guy and then full heal up. So this next tip is also one that may seem a bit obvious to some, but it's map knowledge. And when I mean map knowledge, I see a lot of people out there saying, you know, go offline mode and learn the map, just run around, you know, find those, you know, hidden corners and whatnot. And yes, there is some truth to that. And yes, that can be helpful. I'm not minimizing that. But in reality, if you really want to get better at PvP specifically, it's just going to take time playing, you know, a certain map over and over and over again, because, you know, offline's not going to tell you where those player spawns are, and those player spawns can be different every raid, and that's only going to take repetition. That's kind of like one of the annoying parts about this game, is like some of these things just will kind of have to take time. But I'm telling you, just lock in on one or two maps, really hone in on like, okay, I spawned here, that means blank enemies are gonna be there and there. You know, once you get that repetition in of learning these patterns of where these choke points are gonna be having at what time of the map, it will really just improve, because you're gonna be already looking for that spot. You're already gonna be looking for the enemy going there, and you're gonna have to jump on them. Once you learn this, it will definitely improve your gameplay. Again, it will just have to take time. That is the annoying part about it. But definitely, I mean, go offline if need be, but really just try to hone in on one or two maps and learn these player spawns so you can have that advantage against them. Something else that really helped me get better at PvP was kind of mastering the sprint and walk technique. And what I mean by that is, you know, this kind of ties back into the map knowledge thing, is when you play enough, you kind of know these areas where you can sprint more, where, you know, you kind of need to slow it down and walk a little more. But even then, like a map like Woods is a great example, because Woods is kind of harder, in my opinion, to really track players. I mean, you might have an idea where they are, but it's a little bit harder to keep tabs on where they may be. Sprinting and walking is going to be your best friend. So, you know, you want to sprint to get somewhere quickly, but at the same time, you want to slow down so you can get that better audio, so you can pick up those kills of people sprinting around near you. When I did this, it improved my PvP tremendously. It is definitely a good tip to take in mind. And once you start implementing it, you'll definitely see you catching guys off guard that you never would have heard if you just were sprinting the entire raid. So this last and final tip is probably by far the most important, and it's kind of, again, with the map knowledge thing, it's just going to take time and practice. It's point fire. I'm sure you guys heard it before, but point fire is by far your best friend. I remember when I first started playing, I tried to round every very close corner, aiming down sights, and every time I'd get killed, and I'd get so frustrated on why this was happening. I don't know if you guys know, but it's like a mixture of aim punch. It really messes you up when you're ADSing, and for whatever reason, aim punch just doesn't hit you nearly as hard when you're point firing, when you're shooting from the hip. Once you learn this technique, you will definitely see so much improvement, especially in those closer engagement fights of winning that PvP battle. It is just night and day once you learn kind of where that bullet's going to be coming from your barrel, how much that helps. And also, if you're going to be point firing, if you don't know, always have a flashlight or laser. This will improve your hip fire accuracy as well. I constantly either have a laser on or a flashlight to improve that accuracy. And I cannot tell you guys how much this will help once you learn this trait. Go on offline if you want, hunt scavs with it. Just put a bunch of, scavs run around the map and just hip fire them all. Just really hone in on what that looks like. And once you do, I'm telling you, you will see much, much better improvement in your fights.